Let's get into our player ratings and Big Tones. I kind of just, you don't have to go into anything too specific unless you remember a player or two. But I want to hand off the midfield to you, and I'll end up doing goalkeepers and defenders. But let's just start with the midfield, because there is that old cliche that if you win the midfield, then you usually win the game. What did you rate the midfield, and were you happy with the starting 11? Would you rather have seen something different? Take it away.
Well, I'll start with the starting 11 because that's always a discussion point, and I think Marco had choices to make. You mentioned Dietz in the midfield. He made the decision to go with McGlynn. Could you look back at it and go, hey, we might get pinned back here in this game for a little bit, and maybe McGlynn's not the guy and you want Dietz in there. And then, of course, up top, you didn't go with your number one striker coming into the tournament, and you go with, let's call it, the three most mobile players you have, if you will, right, that did really well in the last match. So I'm okay. You made a decision as a manager, and I'm okay with it. It didn't work out in the end. I don't know if making those two changes would have changed the result, because I still feel like Morocco was just a better side than we were. Yeah. But I'm with you in the midfield. We got run over a little bit, and I've never played in the midfield, but I can imagine what it's like when you win possession of the ball, and within, you now make a move to get into an attacking position. You make a run, and within two passes, the ball's given away. And now you're coming back, and you do that like 2 or 3 times. It's, Brian's probably made like 100 runs behind and the ball doesn't come. Well, guess what? You're not making the 101st run, right? Like you're not making, then all of a sudden the game changes, because now you're not making a run and you're a little bit deeper. I thought all in all, look, Tanner Tessman, he's overall impressed me in the tournament. He's become a better player than I remember him leaving and going to when I used to watch him play initially at Venezia. So good on him. Busio, obviously a little bit of a miss. He's a starter in there, but
yeah, if he starts, let's play the hypothetical. Yeah. If he starts today, ultimately I agree with you. Morocco runs us over regardless. I just think we were a little bit tired and amongst other things, and they were better.
And they're very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like, though, he could have provided something different, you know what I mean, that could have maybe kept the game score a little bit closer and kept the game a little bit under our more of our control?
Well, one thing we get from Busio, no matter what, and we've seen it when he was at Sporting, and we see it now in his game, and we saw it early in the competition, he's not afraid to have the ball at his feet in any moment, right? And he'll get you out of tight spaces, and he's confident with the ball. In a lot of ways, almost too confident, Busio is with the ball, right? And some of the things he tries to do. But he'll also dribble by you every now and then and make a move just to open things up. So we can play the game. Would it have changed if Busio was there? Of course the game would change, because it's a different profile, sure, right? But does it make a difference in the result, I think, is the most important thing. Right. And again, I feel like whether it just wasn't our day today, we didn't have the intensity, as Brian said, right from the jump. Right. That was the start of things for us. And we got steamrolled in a lot of ways. If you go, I can't wait to go back and watch it, because I did watch the first part of the game when I was at the desk at Morning Footy, watching it on my iPad. So you don't see everything, but everything I saw was tilted to one side of the field for quite some time in that first half.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to talk about with regard to Busio. One is he has a innate connection with Tessman, because they play together with Venezia. So they've already been through so many repetitions in different situations and knowing how each one is going to move. I do think that matters, especially when you're playing against a team as good as Morocco is, who's going to really test you in a lot of those different ways. And then the point that you brought up, he's good at running with the ball through pressure. And you wonder how much that would have helped us today, because McGlynn, for me, feels like a pass first out of pressure type of player. And I think Morocco were set up nicely to manage that. Whereas the times that we did break pressure with our running, we'd also just play backwards and we wouldn't take advantage of that, which is, a lot of our frustration for today. But I wonder what that would have looked like. He's very good at breaking that line in middle of midfield. So yeah, obviously a hypothetical, and I don't think it changes the result ultimately, but I think it would have made Morocco have to suffer maybe a little bit, just a little bit. All right, I'm going to go next, McBrizzle. I'm going to go back to the goalkeeper, Patrick Schulte, giving up 4 goals. Not a good look for anybody in the back line. Harriel gave up 2 penalties. I thought he was a little unsure of himself today, and Miles Robinson, not very good passing as well. I thought they allowed, and Walker as well. Walker Zimmerman allowed the lines to collapse too much. They got to, no matter what, even if you're suffering, the spacing has to remain the same. Otherwise, it's going to be even a longer game. Tolkien gets beat. The number 10 for Morocco is excellent. Ilyas Akomash, I thought he was very good. He ended up scoring the second goal and just more switched on. And I think that's another thing I want to give Morocco credit for, was how they could recognize and sniff the opportunity, and then they'd go with real purpose and intent and to really hit that like next gear that I thought the U.S. was lacking, and especially in that defensive awareness. So I thought our outside backs got their best performance. Our center backs looked tired along with the rest of the team. Maybe the organization was a little bit slow. And, as the game's pushing on, we're trying to make other things happen on the Hakimi goal. Tolkien maybe could have done better there. There's just so many. So I could give you numbers, but it's not going to be nice for anybody. So I'm just going to say it was a very poor performance from everybody, including our backline and goalkeeper. But, and maybe we could need Schulte to make 1 or 2 saves. Saving a pen would have been amazing. I know he can only do with what's in front of him. So I should probably give goalkeeper to Tones on that. But, yeah, you give up 4 goals. It's not going to be a good day at the office numbers wise for you. So let's move to the attacking 3.
Well, I'd love to hear Tone's thoughts on the third goal.
The third goal, I'm guessing the Hakimi one, right?
Yeah.
That's the one you're going to question. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. It started on a long throw. So we were in transition. Paredes has got to do something better with Hakimi, foul him or win the ball or whatever it is, or make it a little bit harder. Hakimi finds himself in. Tolkien's caught now. Does he step to Hakimi? Does he go wide? He should for me personally, Tones, I think he should stop to Hakimi a little bit sooner and just force the ball wide. It just looks too easy. Miles doesn't slide across, and then Schulte doesn't have any play on it whatsoever.
Yeah, and I always say that, when it goes through the defender's legs, Tolkien puts his leg up. And remember, Hakimi won that header at midfield.
Yeah.
And he just continued on a sprint and found himself in that position. But it did look like it rolled in fairly slow, right? It looked like there wasn't much pace on it. It bounces. I don't want to do the guessing game, but I will, because it seems fitting
we
here.
We appreciate that.
There's a couple of moments in this Olympics as a whole where Schulte needed length, right? If you go back to the France game, right? 2 goals where he needed some length in his dive, and I don't think that's his game. And I told you guys at the beginning of the competition, I was about Gaga Slonina. We don't get to see him play in a major competition now. I still think he's part of he'll be part of the plans in 2026. But those are opportunities maybe missed. So Schulte, if you want to give an overall grade of the tournament, I probably would give a 6.5, a 7 to as a complete grade for the entire competition.
Okay, now let's get into forwards. Brian McBride, what are you saying for our front 3?
Yeah, I think if you go back to the previous 2 games, I know Griffin Yao came in as a sub in the second match, but still was very effective. I thought that his movement is what sort of made him special, and what he did with the ball, of course, was really good in both that second half and then the third match. I thought he was very, very effective. That interchange with him and Paxton, I thought was sort of unique and something we didn't have when Duncan McGuire was out there. We didn't see any of that today, largely because we didn't possess the ball enough, probably. But still, just asking questions, even if it's just changing positions for 5-10 minutes to see if something changes. I would have liked to seen something like that, because both of them are very comfortable or have played in both those positions. Overall, not much end product, but let's be fair, there really wasn't many opportunities. Kevin Paredes, I thought, was the only one that really asked question of his defender. I'd still like him to stay on his feet a little more, because then he'll get more calls. If he, rides a few of those tackles or, pushes, it'll keep him sort of out of the mindset of the referee is like, oh, is he really being fouled or is he just diving? And then you end up getting more from the actual fouls. So having said that, I thought he was probably our most effective player, even though there wasn't really much from it. So all in all, it wasn't our best day. I thought there was times when we could have held the ball a little bit longer, draw the defender in, especially on the left-hand side. You could tell that Griffin was given a lot of respect to Hakimi. Didn't try and run by him. Now, very difficult to run by Hakimi, of course, but at least draw him in a little bit. Try and create some of that connection that you had before with Paxton Aronson. It just wasn't there for them today.
Okay, so now let's ask the big question. Who was the most versatile throughout the tournament for the U.S.? And Tony, I'm going to come to you first. Who are you feeling about the player that was our most valuable in so many different ways?
I think the guy that maybe is a tough one.
It is
I'm leaning towards Tanner Tessman as the guy who had overall the best tournament, and the guy that impressed the most. I thought Kevin Paredes grew into the tournament because I didn't think he was good in the first couple matches. But I'm with you, with Brian and you guys. He's got to kind of lay off the extras, if you will, just get on with playing, and the game will flow a little bit better for him, I think. Yeah, those are the two guys that come to mind. And if I had to pick one, I thought Nathan Harriel up until today had a really good competition. But I'm going to go with and Jimmy, you're asking the entire tournament, right?
That's correct.
Just so I have it right. Yeah. I'm going to go with Tanner Tessman as the guy who had the steadiest of the tournaments.
And he wore the captain's armband. They probably gave that to him for a reason. How about you, Brian McBride?
Yeah, I'd go with John Tolkien. I thought his intensity from the second match onward was excellent. He didn't get beat much today. It was a difficult job, of course. There wasn't much of him going forward today, but I thought in the second and third matches, he was just a great attribute for Paxton the second game, and then the third game with Griffin Yao and that connection. I thought he was solid defensively. His positioning and tucking in off of Miles's shoulder when crosses were coming in was good, and sometimes that's a question mark for outside backs. But Tessman I thought was solid, and can see why Tones picked him. I think in a situation like that, and I really like that Marko Mitrovic kept Tessman as the captain, because the one thing I felt when in 2008 when I was made captain, I felt like that's sort of taken away from what the team had already done. So I like that, because you have your natural leader, and you can see the older age players like Walker Zimmerman leads, right? He doesn't need the captain armband to do that. I'd go with John myself.
Okay, so I will say that I agree with Tessman. I like the John Tolkien shout as well. I thought in terms of consistency outside of Tolkien, a couple plays today was pretty good. If Busio had stayed healthy the whole time, I think he would have been part of the conversation. In terms of potential, I feel like you can see it the most with Paredes. And Griffin Yao's got a little spark there too, but there's something about Paredes. He's good in 1v1 situations. He can create space for himself. He can be dangerous. But again, he's got to get rid of some of those extracurriculars where he's throwing his hands up. Like he's trying to act like he's Thierry Henry when Henry was playing for the Red Bulls. Everything, he just throws his hands up all the time when he's frustrated. You're not Thierry Henry yet. Hopefully you can get to somewhere in that vicinity by the time your career's over in terms of that quality, but you got a long way to go. So I think, if you can just focus on playing, getting it up, getting just what if you get knocked down, you get back up and you keep playing. I think Leo Messi's a great example of a guy just shuts his mouth and keeps playing. So adding a little bit more of that to his game, I think would be good.